Here are the top 10 most graphically impressive games on the Super Nintendo, according to fans of the SNES and Super Famicom. Number 10 is Contra 3, The Alien Wars. This is a good way to begin the list because this game shows off what the SNES was capable of back then, and it does it moment by moment throughout the length of the game. Like, check out the cool shading of these buildings here, and this attack that comes from the background, and these missiles flying by right here. And check out this turtle that has brains for arms. There's a lot of turning of objects, and in some cases, entire stages. Does it have slowdown? Yes. Can the turning stages cause dizziness? Yes, but it was all worth it. Number 9 is Super Castlevania 4. My ex-wife used to say that size matters a lot. Perhaps she would have stayed around if she had played this game. The player sprite is huge compared to the previous Castlevania games on the NES. In fact, I think this game epitomizes the jump from 8-bit to 16-bit. And the overall art direction gives it a more cohesive look to the stages compared to the 8-bit entries. It also shows off some of the system's capabilities, such as the use of the Mode 7 graphics mode. Konami is 2 for 2 so far. So you might ask, how did I come up with this list? I found places on the internet where people were talking about the most graphical SNES and Super Famicom games. I found those conversations on Reddit, within YouTube videos, on gaming site message boards, and on Facebook retro groups. I even created my own conversation by asking my own audience what the most graphical SNES games were. I took a record of the games being mentioned from all those sources, netting over 1,000 responses. Then I did some analysis and came up with the list I'm showing you today, which is basically a ranking for the most graphically praised games for the platform. My own opinions had no bearing on the results. The process of gathering the data was done manually by myself over a span of several hours. No AI was used. In fact, I have never used AI in any of my YouTube work. So I hope you like this video. Let's continue. Number 8 is Killer Instinct. This was originally a very impressive arcade game, which actually had a hard drive on the circuit board. That obviously meant tremendous graphics and lots of animation. When they ported it to the Super Nintendo, it lost a lot of its graphical fidelity, but there was still enough left to wow the people playing it at home in 1995. To be honest, I don't think these graphics have aged well, and I believe some people may be conflating their memories of it with their memories of Killer Instinct Gold on the N64. But hey, what the hell do I know? My first game was Pong. Number 7 is Final Fantasy III, which is actually Final Fantasy VI everywhere else except North America. My own words cannot do this justice, so here are some actual testimonials from people who played this in the 1990s. One person said, "I remember that opening credits scene with the giant mechs marching in the snow, with the Mode 7 effects making it look like we're gazing into a snowy, moving horizon. I was completely transfixed." And another person said, "It blew me away. The fact that the characters looked the same on the world map as in battle." And yet another person said, "I can vividly remember getting to the part with the ghost train and coming upon the lake in the forest and thinking this was the peak for graphics and couldn't imagine anything better than that." And there you go. I think those quotes sum up the graphics in this game perfectly. Number 6 is Super Metroid. The first Metroid on the NES, and to some extent Metroid 2 on the Game Boy, exuded a feeling of loneliness due to its graphical style and sound design. Super Metroid brings out that feeling even more. For example, you can feel it right here when you're outside and it's raining and the lightning is flashing. No matter where you are in the game, it truly feels that you are on an alien world, and it's because of the work they put into the graphics. The little bizarre creatures come across as indigenous, which makes it seem real. Game designers should, and probably do, study this game when they want to learn how to set the right atmosphere. Number 5 is Super Mario RPG, Legend of the Seven Stars. Being late can be a good thing, except if you're talking about my girlfriend's period. Mario RPG came out in 1996, about 5 years after the SNES first came out. Luckily, that meant the programmers were able to use the skills they learned over those years. Things are nicely animated, and it's the first time Mario was movable in a 3D environment. However, it's really the graphical style that hits hard for people. There is a clean and colorful look to everything, and it has an unmistakable Mario aesthetic to it all. It doesn't feel like a traditional RPG. Number 4 is College Football USA 97. The Super Nintendo had been lagging behind the Genesis when it came to sports games, but titles like this helped make up a lot of ground. The field is full of detail, the action is fast, and the scrolling is nice and smooth. Actually, this is a fake out. I put one of these in most of my top 10 lists to make sure you're paying attention. College Football USA 97 does not belong on this list due to its frame rate issues, among other things. Number 4 is actually Chrono Trigger. A person can look at this pixel art and get hit with waves of nostalgia even if they've never played it before. It just reminds them of how beautiful 2D art can look. For those who have played it, I would imagine that feeling would be even more intense because they associate those graphics with the emotions they felt when they first played through the game. I talked about this in my top 10 SNES games of all time video. This game is so good, it affected people's lives, and they have these long-lasting memories tied to it. And I don't think any of that would have been the case if the graphics sucked. Number 3 is Star Fox. This is the game that got everyone talking about the FX chip, which was on board 8 different SNES games. It allowed the system to create 3D polygons, and it also boosted its ability to create 2D effects. It brought the 16-bit generation to new heights, and while Star Fox wasn't the only 3D game on consoles at the time, I would argue it's the one that got the most people prepared for the next generation of consoles that would come out a little later, like the PS1. It was the dawn of 3D gaming. Now, is Star Fox aging well? Not really, but neither am I. I got way too much sun as a kid. Before we get to number 2 and number 1, I want to go over some honorable mentions. These are games that barely missed being in the top 10. I'm just going to read them off in no particular order. Street Fighter Alpha 2. Secret of Mana. Axley. The Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Star Ocean, which was a Japanese-only game. F-Zero. Tales of Fantasia, which is also a Japanese-only game. And Rendering Ranger R2. That was only in Japan as well. And here are some honorable mentions. These are games that barely missed being in the honorable mentions. Even though they're a little bit down from the top, these should still be considered graphical powerhouses when you consider the amount of games that were on the console. Number 2 is Super Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island. The Crayola-like art design of this one is so stunning, it'll make you cry like a baby. What they did here was hand draw stuff, scan it into a computer, and then turned it into graphics for the game. They had to work pixel by pixel in order to keep the hand-drawn look of the original sketches. Like many of the other games on this list, it had an enhancement chip, which was a modified version of the one inside Star Fox that helped with some of the effects, such as when Yoshi touches one of the spores here. In the end, it took 4 years to produce, and I think everyone can agree it looks beautiful. Number 1 is all 3 of the Donkey Kong Country games. It's rare that I combine a franchise in videos like this, but these 3 would have overrun this list like a gorilla had I done otherwise. If I had separated them, Donkey Kong Country 1 would have been number 1, Donkey Kong Country 2 would have been number 6, and the third one would have been number 7. Some of you may contend that Donkey Kong Country 1 is the least graphical of the 3, but it's the one that most people are familiar with. It stunned the gaming world in 1994. The other 2 came out after the PS1 came out, so their graphical impacts were less noticed. Regardless, it's amazing that all 3 of these games were done without any enhancement chips on the cartridges. They used pre-rendered sprites with a lot of frames, so the animation is silky smooth. The end result is a feast for the eyes. You know what else is a feast for the eyes? Some of my other top 10 lists that feature graphically impressive games. I did one for the Genesis, and I did one for the NES, so check those out.